cosplayers for a few.
Sure, I'd love to talk to you.
Okay, great. So how did you pick your character?
I think she is the most, if I can swear a little bit, badass. Just, strong. She doesn't put up with anything. And I just think she's, awesome looking, too. She's very striking when you see her.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long have you been cosplaying?
I'd have to say all my life before there was a term for it, because Halloween is like my Christmas. But probably doing cons at least about 4 or 5 years.
Cool. Well, you have a fantastic look. You've obviously paid attention to detail. And you cosplay this character because you personally resonates with you. How much time and effort does it take you to get ready when you go to these things?
It depends on every character. This one takes a while because it takes a while just to get the pants on. But it just varies from character to character. Some are very easy. We call them walk-around costumes because they're just simple and comfortable. This is comfortable, but it just takes a while to kind of get into it.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question.
Sure.
Going to the bathroom.
Don't. I can't. I don't drink. I'm so thirsty right now. I feel like I'm going to die. But it's worth it. So right after we're finished, I'm going to run and get like a drink of water or something. So, yeah, there's no zipper in this.
When you believe in dragons, dragons come out to play. So believe in dragons, and you might see one today.
Every one of these was either a commission piece or something I did for myself.
Terrific. Now, do you always come to these characters, or do you have other things that you do?
We have other characters. Tomorrow will be Steampunk, Green Lantern, and Zatanna.
All right.
How long have you been cosplaying?
About 5-6 years now.
Okay, now why did you choose the costume that you choose?
I grew up with Ghostbusters.
Okay.
This is my childhood.
What do you get out of the role of cosplaying that you wouldn't get coming just dressed in your regular civilian clothing?
Making people smile. That's the good thing. We do charity work with the Louisville Ghostbusters with Coast Air. So we get to help kids, we get to make people smile, and we get a lot of fun and enjoyment out of that. So.
Talk about different events going on, steampunk events. That's our steampunk werewolf.
Hey, Richter.
This is our zombie blaster. When you hook it with steam and get the pressure built up to 160 psi, this end will glow and you can take them out one by one if you're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. It's called the Gatlin Fist. This is the Victorian era mobile phone. It has the backpack straps for mobility, the antenna for reception. This is one we came up with. It's for the Victorian era lady or gent on the go who would like to tell time from where they stand. And I'm thinking of calling it a wrist clock.
It's really not as heavy. It's not that bad.
I want comic book.
We've got tattoo artists, we've got models, we've got people who make candles, we've got mask makers. It's going to be a good time.
Gandalf the Goblin, banished barber of Cablonia.
I don't have such a fancy title. My name is just Cheryl.
Just Cheryl?
Just Cheryl. You have a book.
I have a book.
It is called
The Completely Inappropriate Tales of Gandalf the Goblin. That's me. I've got my name in big print. This guy down here, he's a hack. He got his name in smaller print. If you just type in Gandalf, it's the only Gandalf book on Amazon. All 5-star reviews on Amazon, and none of them were written by my mother.
We are here today with Chuck Moore. He is, and I've already forgotten your title.
That's okay. I'm show organizer and convention owner.
Okay, of the Derby City Comic Con.
Yes, yeah.
How long have you been running these Comic Cons?
I've been doing this one this is my 3rd show. It's the 5th show for Derby City Comic Con. I actually took over for Eric Bannister, who started it, and I've grown it each year since.
So what draws you to want this level of insanity in your life?
I owned comic book stores back in the 80s. I've done a comic news and information website, comicrelated.com, for the better part of a decade. I've been in and around the comic world for a long, long time, and it was always kind of my dream to own a comic convention, because I used to go to these like the convention I run with my father, and he's passed away, but it's kind of I get to do what we got to do together, and I build a show that's very much like the type of show that we did together.
Fantastic. Now, how do you source the people that are your vendors? Do they come to you? Do you
They come to me for the most part. Having been in the culture for so many years, I know most of the people in this area of the country, and I know who to reach out to. But yeah, we open it up because there's always new talent, new people to kind of discover, and you kind of take a look at the websites, take a look at the Facebook pages, take a look at DeviantArt, different places where they put their work up. And I like the comic creators that are national, and I like the people who are doing their first issue and DIY stapling it together on a photocopier. I like having both of those in. I like showing the whole spectrum, because that gives the creator the spotlight they can't find in other places, and still has the national recognized individuals to bring them to the show, and grows the overall culture. It's a seed ground as much as it is a presentation.
Talk to me about graphic art as being art.
Art, oh my gosh, yes. I mean, especially this area of the country has such a strong art scene. I mean, if you factor in Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky together, it is phenomenal. And there's such a love of art, like the arts fairs that go on in the different cities in here. I like presenting a show that is very art driven. It's very cosplay driven, it's very kids driven, it's very comic driven, but art is a key component. You see a lot of people that are doing original art, that are doing original comics, that are presenting their work. I like finding the creator that isn't here just because they love making comics. I love finding the creator that's burning and has to get that art out of them. And that is, I think, art in the culture and in the comic industry. When you find that level of creator and they're expressing themselves by what they have sitting on their table, and when you give them 5 seconds to tell their story, there are so many beautiful stories on this show floor. And I love that. That's the part I love about it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think it is about comic book art that resonates with people.
I think it's very much in our culture right now. There's no doubt about it. It's cool to be geek right now, and it has been for a while. I don't see that fading. But you can do things. I mean, first of all, comics are one of the only original narrative art forms that are indicative. We created comics in America, and it is something we can be proud of. But more so than that, you can do things in comics that you cannot do in film or books. It is that beautiful marriage of the written word and the drawn picture, and things that would be impossible to do sometimes in film, you can do in comics. The art of sequential art, which is an art form, allows you to tell stories in a fresh way. And the diversity of content that happens across the industry, from your tights and caves superheroes everybody thinks about, to your slice of life stories, to the deep genre. I mean, everything's being told. There's something in comics for everyone.
What do you want people to know about Derby City Comic Con?
Derby City Comic Con it's unique. We definitely have our own niche. Comic culture a lot has gone to your media guest-driven shows, and when you go out there, a lot of people go out to see the William Shatners and the different people, the Big Bang Theory people. We do a show that has almost no media guests, and we do that because it harkens back to Comic Cons the way they have existed over the years. And where we are today, that show is getting harder and harder to find. And if you're someone who grew up in this culture or went to Comic Cons when you were young, it's hard to find that experience and be able to share it with the next generation. And I love a show that is comic focused and art focused, but also we do a family friendly show. This is kid driven. We keep the prices of entry low so that a family of 4 or 6 or 12 or how many ever it is can come out and experience a Comic Con and not break the budget. And that's why we have kids 10 and under free. We build a huge kids area. We're growing it every year. We're adding Blast a Trooper this year so that they can shoot stormtroopers. We want this to be something that keeps kids excited, and there's a really selfish reason for that. I want to see this culture continue to grow, and if we don't reach out to that next generation, then we're not fostering this art form and this part of our culture. And I think it's great. The movies are great. Everything that's going on in our culture is great, but I think we have to hang on to building that art form, and that's something that I really have made a point of my show to do.
Now, What are some of the biggest challenges for somebody who wants to do what you do? I mean,
a lot of people think they can, and the biggest challenge is thinking it's easy. It is not easy. This was up until up until earlier this year. This was my full-time job for 3 years. This was it. This was what I did, and it is something that if you want to do it well, it's going to take you a good chunk of your year, because the guests, you've got to book them well in advance. It's getting harder and harder because there's so many, and it's something that you really have to invest your life in. And the nuances of things like insurance, EMS, fire, all the different things that go into it to do a convention are things that promoters who are young in this don't know what they're getting into. And that's why we have some shows across the country that have had some stumbles lately. And you've got to make sure that you can pay those flights, and you've got to make sure that everything is covered. And it is the level of complexity that I don't think people understand sometimes. Now, if you're doing something that is in a hotel room on a weekend, it's a simpler thing. But if you're doing a 65,000 square foot show, it's a lot more tricky.
what are some misconceptions about comic book artists, comic book culture, in the general public that you'd like to dispel?
I think first and foremost that it's white men. It is not white men anymore. There is a diversity in this that is beautiful. The strength of female creators in this industry, the strength of African American creators in this industry, there is so much diversity in this. Everybody makes the pun that it's a bunch of guys getting together on the weekend. It is not. The ratio of my attendance gender-wise is about 50-50, and we see everybody is excited. They're not there to hang out with. There's a lot of stereotypes about what you're going to see when you go to the show, and it defies those. And I'm really proud of this industry, because there was a time that some of those stereotypes were a little bit more true, especially if you go back to the very early days of comic culture. But what we're seeing today is an embrace of everything, the whole rainbow spectrum of the world, and I love that.
Where do you see the future of it going?
I see it really exploding, just because everybody says that we're going to peak in terms of the movies and the exposure and different things, but it just keeps getting stronger. I mean, my goodness, if you just look at the amount of genre television that's on right now, we're taking over television, where the theaters are blowing up with Marvel movies and DC and Superman versus Batman and everything else. But I also think that I love it that in that growth, you would think that, okay, Marvel and DC are winning. And I see a lot, especially since the indie press revolution that happened in the 80s and 90s, the excitement of independent comic creators only gets stronger. And the tenacity to not give up and to believe that there is a path to success now that doesn't involve trying to break into the big industry, that you can have a runaway hit that is your next internet phenomena. And I think that excitement in the industry is great. So that makes me very helpful, because it's on the high level, it's tight, and on the low level, it's tight. And that means we're going to continue to grow.
Actually, when it comes to comic books, old digital print, just old print production, we now live in a digital age.
Yeah.
Everything is downloadable,
Yep.
YouTubeable,
Yep.
Facebookable. How does that change the industry, and what does it force in terms of innovation?
I think we are definitely going through a sea change, but I think we're going through a sea change in all of our culture. From music to magazines to newspapers, everybody's having a hard time in terms of print. And I have some maybe extreme views that we're going to go pretty digital in the nearer future than maybe some of the industry thinks. That's just my personal opinion, but I think it's hard. A lot of people love to hold the books in their hands, and I have a high respect for that. I went all digital a few years ago. I read digitally, purchase things through things like Comixology or direct through Marvel and different things. About 154 titles a month. There is something that's amazing about being able to take an iPad on a plane and have a good chunk of your comic collection on it. And I think looking at the technology and how the technology is getting better and better, I think it's going to be more, but I think we're going to see the record industry effect. I think we're going to see there's going to be a niche. There's going to be always going to be a market for those people that want that old.
I'm tactile.
Feel.
I like the look and smell and feel.
I know.
Yeah.
And I think there's a market there for both, but it does make it easier to onboard new people because you have that lower price point for digital in some cases, and I think that attracts can get people in the door when print comics are getting up to $3-4 in some cases. And getting those 99-cent specials or those whole collections of something to read, it makes it easier to dive in and get hooked.
I think we talked to Kevin Goodner.
Yeah.
Do you know who?
Yeah, we know him well. He's wonderful.
Okay. He is wonderful. He does a great interview as well.
Yeah.
But one of the things I talked to him about was just because we live in such a fast-paced society and everything is instantaneous. I think there's a disconnect between how long it actually physically takes to do the work, as opposed to being able to just hit download and boom, it's yours. And I think that there may be not as much respect there for the artist as there needs to be for that purpose, but maybe that's just me.
No, I definitely see it. I have a friend, Eric Adams, who did a beautiful series called Lackluster World, and he worked for a long time painstakingly on those issues, and was up to like all but the last issue, and there is something about spending a good chunk of a couple years of your life building something, and somebody buys it all on a Saturday, comes back on Sunday and said, "Do you have the last issues? Because I loved it. I read it all last night." He's like, "I just spent a chunk of my life, and you devoured it like that,
right?
And wanted more." That's the great thing. But yeah.
Okay. The last thing I always ask in all my interviews for everyone is I pretty much just turn the floor over. Yeah. So anything at all that you want to say to anybody you want to say it to?
My thing would be simple. No matter who you are, if you are a deep book reader, if you are a movie watcher, try it. Buy a comic. Go to your local comic book store. Support local. Small industry, small business. Go to your local comic book store. Try a couple. Try something that you've never experienced before. Find a beautiful tree out in a great park and enjoy a day reading comics, because I think you're going to find you have some misconceptions maybe if you're not part of the industry or aren't a regular comic reader, and I think there are some beautiful stories being told that are beyond what you would expect in the comic book world. And I think like we give credit to the book industry for having such a diversity of content and qualities, you got to give that same credit to comics, and I would encourage people to just go out and try. And stop by DarbyCityComicCon.com and come see us next year, because there's a great place to buy comics.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, this has been Chuck Moore, and this is the Derby City Comic Con.
And this Godzilla was down on his back
and Final Wars.
Oh, it's a bouncy ball.
So it's like Flubber. Look at the robots.
I was best known for this series, which is called Lackluster World. It's the story of an albino man trying to change his world through a combination of journalism and vandalism or street art. But half the time he's fighting off his fanatically religious brother and sister who are desperately trying to convert him to Christianity. I call it Fight Club meets Office Space in Pleasantville.
Nice. Wonderful, that's awesome. Now, where do you get the inspiration for your work?
Oh God, don't ask me that question.
Yes.
I mean, really, just from everything, from life,
Yeah.
There are, I guess the only real direct thing I could say I get inspiration from is I will intentionally just get online and start absorbing all kinds of new information with just solely to let it saturate myself until the ideas kind of congeal into something. All three of these books came out simultaneously 3 months ago, and they're all one-shots, which means that they're self-contained stories. Yeah. We call them single servings, that's what it says on each of the books.
Sweet.
And this Rumspringa, the Amish punk one, has definitely been the popular one. It's about an Amish family feud that escalates into a battle of giant wooden fighting robots. So
that needs to be a movie.
I got to do one of the stories in Marvel's latest Once Upon a Time anthology.
Oh, nice.
So I got to do the Wonderland story, clearly.
Oh, wow.
They let me go full on Tenniel, hand color everything.
So wow.
Yeah, it was fun. A friend of mine who had left and gone to work for Marvel Comics decided to write a book based on 3 pieces of artwork I'd done. So we did it all in decoupage, kind of where that's here. Actually, I got a page from the sequel.
Oh wow!
Coming out.
Oh my goodness!
So all the pages were done like this with like layers of cutouts.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Glued down. That's how this one was done as well.
Oh my goodness!
We won an Eisner for the first book that came out.
Fantastic.
So after that, I started getting hired by Marvel to do Jane Austen adaptations. I wrote the geekiest email in the world, and did a casino heist in outer space for Image, and just odds and ends here and
sense.
There are lots of anthologies, things like that. And 5 years in, this is what I do full time. So
Fantastic. Well,
that's my story. I feel like I'm the Lana Turner of comics, honestly. I was sitting in the soda shop and someone discovered me.
I mean, I always read comics as a kid, like mostly Archie and you know, Richie Rich and things like that. So, and I always loved animated, a lot of Warner Brothers cartoons and things like that. So, over the years, I just kind of grew more and more with my art. And I would say the past 6 years, I've been coming to conventions. And as far as comics go, basically when I started dating my husband, we both started collecting more comics. And he blames it on me to this day that he has a huge stack every week that he has to go pick up. So
darn.
Yeah, dumb. But yeah, and I just started coming to conventions, and it's almost addicting in a way, you know, or addictive. So now I've grown with my own comics and working with other artists and creators.
We have been very busy today. I was an only child, and I was raised by my mother and grandmother in what used to be a very rural and predominantly white suburb of Louisville, Kentucky, called Okolona. And growing up out there and being an only child really, I think, gave me an opportunity to kind of find myself at a very early age, to determine the things that I was passionate about. One of them, of course, was art. I have an older cousin who was just a hero of mine. He was a great athlete, an artist, and all that. And he used to bring over these Marvel comics, and we would just go through them and devour them and draw all the panels and the covers. And his art was so good. And I thought, man, I just want to be that good one day. So whenever we weren't hanging out together, which was almost every day, because he was like my big brother, I would practice. And I got pretty good. By the time I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, I got my first commission.
That's sweet.
And milk money or something. So I met a couple of guys. We formed a group, and ended up getting a record deal in Miami. So I spent a couple of years there, recording and touring. And but even during that period, I was designing. I designed our logo and our T-shirts and all of that. And I really, to be totally honest with you, I did not see commercial art as a career opportunity. I think we are doing our children a disservice if we don't share our knowledge, our wisdom, hopefully, and our talents with the next several generations. We separate ourselves through, our music, our culture. Oh, well, I'm old school. I don't do that, or you kids today, or whatever. To me, it just sounds so ridiculous. Especially, you're in your 40s or 50s. How far apart are you really from your kids or even your grandkids? On a local level, artists tend to be much more supportive of one another. There's an organization called the Louisville Cartoonist Society, and it's made up of folks who do everything from comic strips to graphic novels to sculpting and all kinds of things. And those organizations are really necessary especially for folks who've maybe never seen their work in print before. The LCS publishes an annual anthology, and it allows people to come in and kind of create their own thing and to see it. So those are very, very important aspects. I enjoy being the guy who is typically more positive than everybody else. And it's not an act, it's really who I am. But in that message, hopefully, is this idea that anybody can do not just what they want, but what they feel in their heart. So many of us get up every day and we go to jobs that we hate. I did it. And we trade our life and our energy for a paycheck, when in fact, if you ask us what we really love to do, it'd probably be somewhere making something or doing something that we love. And so to be able to inspire anybody to take back some control of their life, even if you work that 9 to 5 or whatever, take a few hours and draw or sketch or write in your notebook or whatever. I think that's incredibly powerful. And the more that people do it, the more I think that we connect with our own humanity, and the more that we are able to see each other as human beings. So yeah, that's kind of my thing.